Welcome, everyone. First, I would like to ask something from you. Think about the last time when you were so immersed in something that it might felt someone disconnected from reality. Think of an example when you were so engulfed with something that you forget to take out the laundry, or you simply forgot that you haven't had a glass of water for the last 6 hours. And you might be wondering, what does this have to do with APIs? But the thing is, 9 out of 10 developers say that they experience such a deep focus when they are working with APIs, and they describe this state as their peak performance when they feel that they can deliver anything. And how can we foster this peak performance on developer portals? We will see soon during the presentation, but first let me introduce myself and my colleague. My name is Mónika Mikházi. I'm a UX researcher at Pronovix, and my colleague is Nóra Farkas. She's a UX designer, and for a living, we help build developer portals that make lives easier. We're also psychologists by education, which help us connecting the dots between the cognitive patterns of developers and the design practices that can help their productivity on developer portals. So we were curious about what factors contribute to the peak performance of developers, and we conducted user interviews to find out if they experience this peak performance at all, when do they experience it, what do they feel during and after this experience. And we were also curious about how can UX design practices foster peak performance on developer portals. So during the presentation, we will also show some practical examples of UX design practices, but first let's see what we mean by peak performance of software developers. As one of the developers whom we talked with described, when you are in a flow, you kind of become your own bubble with your work and it just flows. So this is the flow state. The optimal performance, a theory by Mikházi, who is a Hungarian-American psychologist. And in the beginning, I described a scenario when you're so immersed in something, you concentrate so deeply to an activity that the sense of time is altered. It means that it might just fly by or it freezes. And in this state of mind, we also feel a sense of control over our actions. So we need a balanced challenge and skill ratio, which means that the activity is not too easy that we feel bored, and it's not too difficult that we feel anxiety. But it doesn't mean that we have to be fully confident. So we need some kind of arousal, some excitement, so that we can get into the flow state. And some developers describe that, for example, a strict deadline would give such an arousal that it's easier for them to get in flow. We are also lacking self-concern in this state, which means that we are not saying things to ourselves like, I'm not good enough for this, I can do this. So we can be more confident in what we are doing. And immediate feedback is also a prerequisite of this state, because if we can make sure that we are on the right track, then it ensures us that what we are doing is right. So as I mentioned, we conducted user interviews and we asked developers what kind of activities do they engage in when working with APIs. Do they experience flow during these activities? And if they experience flow, when do they experience it? How do they feel during and after the experience? And consequently, what helps and distracts them during this process? So we found that 9 out of 10 developers experience flow in certain activities when working with APIs. For example, when they are trying out the API, they are coding, or when they're learning about APIs from the documentation, and they experience flow even during troubleshooting. So let's see the benefits of the flow experience for developers and providers as well. So studies show that we are 5 times more productive in this state of mind, which means that developers can deliver 5 times faster and they can meet deadlines. And there's a higher chance that they will use your solution. So if they're happy with the portal, they might stick to the same portal in the future as well. Recommendations are one of the main sources where developers get inspired about which API to use. And if they can get into the flow on your portal, there is a higher chance that they will recommend your portal to other developers as well. And last but not least, employee retention can also be a benefit. So if we are talking about an internal portal, there's a higher chance that developers will stay at your company if they're satisfied with the portal that they're using. As Joanna described, the first few experiences that you can have with the API portal are probably the most impactful, because even if you can resolve those first problems, it's not like you're going to spend time keep going with that provider. So providers don't have much chance to impress developers because they will choose a maximum 1, 2, 3 APIs, and they will reject those sites where they find the friction right away. So let's see some quotes of the interviews that we conducted. It is the state when I advance the most, when I do most of the work, and when I can deliver anything. So as I mentioned, flow can lead to 5 times more productivity. And in this state of mind, we are really motivated, we are inspired. So we feel really great and we can progress much, much more than we usually can. As Stephen explained, the flow would make my whole development process more fun. Like it would help my motivation. I would be excited of it. Although we need some different triggers and different circumstances to get into flow, we have different personalities. There are some things in common. For example, it can be learned. Many developers whom we talked with thought that it has to come spontaneously and naturally, but the thing is it can be learned, and thus we can prepare for it. We can prepare for it, for example, by eliminating distractions, because distractions are a key in flow. If we distract the flow, we distract the productivity, basically. As David described, I'm really productive, and disrupting this flow can make things less productive. So there was also a study where they found that developers in flow, if they were disrupted, it took 15 minutes for them to get back in flow, if they can get back in it at all. And in conclusion, when designing portals, we should definitely consider the user experience so that we can provide solutions that developers really need and with the least friction possible. But if we optimize their workflow and maximize the chance that they get into flow, we can boost the productivity of developers. For example, we can do this by eliminating distractions, or using practices that streamline their productivity, like instant feedback that I described previously, to ensure them that they are on the right track, and by using gamification elements that give rewards to developers, and thus they can feel a sense of achievement, and it also enables cooperation and collaboration between them. And now let's see some design practices. So Nóri, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mónika, for the introduction. So let's see the usual developer journey that we have when using APIs and therefore API documentation portals. So the usual developer journey begins with the discovery step, where users discover the available products, available APIs on the portal. Then they go to the evaluate phase, when they make a decision about which API they would like to use. In the learn phase, then they learn everything about the API from the documentation itself. In the tryout phase, they are already working with the code. They do a lot of experimenting and testing. And then lastly, in the build step, when they integrate the solution to their project, they do a lot of coding and troubleshooting. And as you can see here, this journey can be linear in case of so-called systematic learners of developers who first learn, then try out, and then build systematically. But this journey can be non-linear as well, since opportunistic learners of developers tend to jump to this tryout option or the tryout phase right after the evaluate step. And then they go back to the learn phase to read the documentation if they do not understand something. So as you can see here, there are different learning approaches of developers. The developer journey can be different based on these approaches, but there are definitely some touch points with the dev portal that we can take into consideration when designing for flow experience. And as you can see here, we asked developers about when they are usually experiencing flow during this journey. And it turned out that learn, try out, and build phases have the highest chance for experiencing flow. So in the next few slides, I'm going to focus on these 3 steps. And I'm going to show you some examples about how to make sure that these flow experiences actually happen. We gathered the example from this year's Dev Portal Awards nominees. Dev Portal Awards is an annual award which showcases developer portals from the API world, and they recognize the best ones each year. This year, many companies have awards nominations in different categories, and we selected a few great examples from these dev portals. So here we are in the learn phase, when users usually want to learn quickly and effectively. They want to remember the basic concepts. And since every developer is different, they might want to skip parts of the documentation that they are already familiar with. From a UX perspective, interactivity and consistency is something that can boost the flow experience when reading the documentation or reading the guides. An example from Miro Developer Platform shows how the sense of achievement and instant feedback can involve users when reading out the guide section of the portal. In this particular example, we can see that there is a progress indicator at the beginning of every guides page, and the time to complete information as well. When users are reading the guide, they can mark this guide as completed with this button that we can see here, which gives them the sense of achievement that they need in case of flow experience. This is a layout which is consistent throughout the whole guide section of the platform. So we have these elements in every guides page, which gives the user the sense of control that they need when being in a flow experience. Inclusive design is something that is a must these days. Most people think about accessibility, screen readers, color contrast when talking about inclusive design. But I think taking into account developers with diverse skill sets and diverse preferences is something that we can aim for when talking about inclusive design practices. In this example from React.dev, we can see that there are some deep dive sections that we can see here, which the users can expand and read more details about a certain topic. So this way, for example, more senior developers with the necessary skills to understand everything at first, they can skip this part to stay in the flow experience when learning. But for example, more beginners with less experience, they can read through everything to understand all the documentation. Cloudinary Docs provides video tutorials for their users in the documentation parts of the portal. As we can see here, they also provide the tutorial contents. And it's also possible that users can jump to a particular section of the video by clicking on these timestamp buttons that we can see here. So navigating and searching in these videos makes it really easy with this solution. And also this way, users can dedicate less cognitive effort for searching and more cognitive effort for understanding the concept. So here we are in the tryout phase. When users are already working with the code, they want to see a real example, they want to see how it really works. And they also want to understand how they can integrate this solution to their project. So tryout is definitely a challenge, especially when talking about an API that you haven't seen before. And React.dev says, why not make it fun? They give challenges to the user as a game. They give a prompt that you can see here as a task for the user, and the user has to solve it with the tryout section. They can also get a hint if they feel that they are stuck, and they can get the whole solution if they want. And this not also makes the whole experience much more enjoyable, but it also supports the optimal skill challenge ratio that is really important when talking about flow. In case of tryout, AI functionalities can help a lot, since they give immediate feedback via this question and answer format that we have here. Code@Docs has a great AI functionality under the name of CodeChat, where users can ask questions or even give orders to the AI to write a particular sample code, for example. When asking a question, users have a clear goal, which is a prerequisite of flow. And by getting answers quickly, they can solve problems more easily, and they can get in flow much more easily. Also, these AI functions have the cool factor in them, which makes the whole experience fun and engaging. Spotify for developers also has a great tryout option. They decided to put the tryout right on the home page. So this way they can support users with an opportunistic learning approach, and they can jump to the tryout section at the beginning of their journey. So as you can see here, we can get a real result as the result of the tryout. So if you connect your own Spotify account to this platform, you can get back, for example, your top 5 tracks from the last 30 days. This supports users to understand the concept right and consequently get into flow. So the last step is the build step that we have here. The user needs are to work effectively without interruptions or minimal interruptions. And in case of troubleshooting, they want to find solutions to their problems. Miro Developer Platform provides the fun aspect of flow experience by adding gamification elements. In this particular example, we can see that badges can be earned in particular steps of the integration. This gives the user the reassurance that they are on the right track, and it also makes the whole experience much more enjoyable. Mapbox Docs provides a great example of enabling live communication. In this particular example, we can see that Discord community platform is used. Actually, many portals have Discord or other community interfaces connected to the portal, where users can collaborate and they can help each other. And this is actually a troubleshoot page that we can see here. So on the troubleshoot page, users have a clear entry point to this Discord community platform, and also the Ask AI functionality, which is also available from here. So enabling live communication is also something that can boost the flow experience. On the developer portal of ABN AMRO, we can see a good example for incorporating use cases into the support options of the portal. So in case of troubleshooting, users want to find support options easily and quickly, and by incorporating these use cases here, we can help them navigate on the support page. Also, this is definitely a step which supports them to stay in flow experience, and we can provide entry points from their point of view. So as a summary, I would like to give you some do's and don'ts, some things to aim for and avoid. Interactive journeys are something you can definitely aim for also results as soon as possible after the user enters your portal. Gamification elements give you the fun aspect when talking about flow, and inclusive design is also something that is a must, taking into account the different skill sets of developers. On the downsides, we have the complex and long descriptions, which is something that you can avoid. Also, the lack of feedback about the progress, since feedback is something that gives the user the reassurance that they are on the right track. Inconsistent user flows and design elements are something that you can also avoid, and you can aim for consistency in this regard. So with keeping these in mind, I think that you can take your user experience to a whole new level by giving the rewarding experience of flow to your users. I think this is a personal experience, which is really powerful, and it can result in having more trust for the provider and seeking for these opportunities more often. And last but not least, I would like to talk about the importance of user needs as a disclaimer. So these best practices that I have shown you are really useful, but they will not necessarily work on your portal. So you always have to get to know your users, your audience, and their needs, and how you can respond to these needs. User journey mapping can be a great tool for this, taking into account both technical and non-technical personas as well. Data-driven design is also what I would highlight here. If you have the possibility, always make decisions based on data. This data can be from user interviews, from usability tests, or even analytics. And last but not least, if you design for flow experience, or if you design at all, always ask yourself why, just as Backstreet Boys and 4-year-olds ask too. Thank you for your attention. If you would like to talk about these ideas, you can reach out to us via this email. We also have a booth at the conference number 51, so you can find us there. Thank you very much.